everybody, welcome to my guide here on interpolation video mode. And this is a mode, I did do a video on it in the past, but like I said, I'm updating all of my guides for the 0.7 and up. And so the first thing I'm going to do here is make a fresh copy of the notebook here so I can show you everything I'm changing, which won't be a whole lot. This is probably going to be the easiest video tutorial to follow or do. So I'm just going to go ahead and start running it here, and I'll show you what I changed. Like I said, this is a brand new notebook, so everything I'm doing you can follow right along with me here. And the first thing I'm going to do now, this part isn't necessary. If you have a particular model you like, go ahead and use it. I usually, when I'm doing YouTube videos, I switch to the 2.1 model, the 512, just because it is censored a bit. So I just do that when I'm making my YouTube videos. And I do actually have a custom model I'm going to be releasing. That's going to be one of my next guides, is models, using custom models. But for now, task at hand, that's all I'm going to change here. And like I said, this part you can just leave alone. You don't need to change it if you don't want to. But I am going to go ahead and change it to the 2.1 512 model. And then down here, we're going to pick interpolation mode. And let me see here. Your movement keys will not have any effect on it. So let me just kind of give you a brief summary what interpolation mode does. Interpolation mode will basically just make your prompts, and there will be a certain number of frames it will generate between the prompts. So what it kind of does is it'll just morph from prompt to prompt. So it doesn't use movement keys at all. It's just going to change one image to the next one. And so it can kind of have some cool effects there. Okay, and let me show you the main things here that you want to do for interpolation mode is right down here. Now, if you click on the interpolate keyframes, then it's going to use your animation prompts down here, and it's going to use the numbers between them to generate. What I mean by that is, so it'll do 20 frames between the first prompt and the second one, 10 between the second and third, and 10 more between the last. So this is kind of set up because it'll go a little quicker from the first prompt to the second prompt, so that might be why they put in some extra frames there. So I'm just going to leave it on that to show you what it does. But the other method's actually a little bit easier to use and follow, I think. But this way you have more control over it if you leave that unchecked. So right now I have this unchecked, so it's just going to generate 20 frames between here and here, and 10 between here and here, and 10 between here and here. So the reason why I said that it's a good idea if you're doing it this way to have more frames between the first and second, because the first prompt, it's going to instantly start changing from the apple to the banana. So without those extra frames there, it won't be an apple very long. So if you want your first prompt to have more prominence, you can do it like this, do it manually, and then add more frames. But this is still going to be really quick. This is only going to be a 40 frame animation. So I'm just waiting for everything to run. And let me just go ahead and change a couple things while I'm doing that. Just down here, we'll go ahead and leave the prompts with the default. I'm just going to turn the prompt waiting off for now. And I'm going to change this to the C. This isn't necessary. It'll just make your file name a little shorter if you have a really long prompt in there. And I'm going to change the steps down a bit. We'll just change that down to 30. That should be plenty. And then I'm just going to change the batch name, and I think that'll be about it. Yeah. The seed behavior also should not matter. It's just going to use the same seed no matter what you have there. And let's see, is our seed on -1? That's for random, so we can leave it on that, which doesn't really matter. If you have a certain seed you like for your prompts, you can find one of your really good prompts and then copy that seed. Looks like we're ready to go here. Maybe not. Okay, yeah, so that's all I'm going to change. I'm just going to save the animation prompts right here as they are. And I think that should be about it. I'm just going to change this down to 0. This shouldn't matter unless you're using a starting image. And I don't think you can use a starting image with interpolation. Yeah, but it's still just loading and running. So I'll come check back here in just a minute when it's done. Okay, it's all loaded up here now. The first thing it's going to do is it's actually going to show us an image of each of these prompts. So that's kind of a cool feature, especially if you got like 100 frames in between each of them. So I'm going to go ahead and run it here, make sure everything else is going okay here. So you can see it's preparing interpolation for the following. So it should show us all 4 images here, I believe here. Yep, so there's the first one. It's just going to render all these images real quick. And then what it's going to do is it's going to generate the video changing from this to this and then to the next two. So there's a view of our prompts there, which were just the default prompts that I didn't change or anything. There they are. And now it's just going to start making the video, which should be, I think, about total of 30 frames. So right now it's making the video. It's changing the first prompt to the second prompt. So it's changing the beautiful apple to the beautiful banana right now. And now it's a banana. There's that beautiful banana. Looks a little more like a gourd. That's all right though. I'm just kind of showing you what this mode does. Like I said, I used to not really like this much. I do have an image morpher program I use too sometimes that's separate from AI and diffusion. And I've usually just used that. But I started using this a few weeks ago to test one of my new models, and I really liked the effects it was giving me. It kind of gave it some life. So I actually think I'm going to use this in my next music video when I make one. And there we go. It's making the coconut now, and then the durian. I believe the durian are those really stinky fruit. I'm not sure. Or, yeah, I think they smell really. I don't know if it's the corpse fruit. But anyways, it's making the prompts right now. And I'm going to show you another way here that'll be a little easier, I think. It's a little less work anyway, because you don't have to plot out all the different keyframes. Okay, and there is our durian. And there it's done. And let's go ahead and make our video now. We want to uncheck this. Okay, and here's our video. Like I said, this is going to be really short, just a 40 frame video. So you can see it's morphing from one prompt to the next, and it's doing it pretty fast because we didn't render very many frames. So let's go ahead now. And let me go ahead and show you this other mode here and what it does. Like I said, this is a little less work. You don't really have to figure anything out except how many frames you want. So what we're going to do here this time is we are going. Oh, actually, I didn't have it checked. So let me go ahead and check this because it didn't act the way I was saying. Okay, now it should. Now it will render the 20 frames, then 10 and 10. Back there was just rendering 4 frames, which I meant to be the next part, but let's go ahead and do this one more time. Okay, my mistake there. Sorry, I thought that was unchecked, but I actually had it checked. Okay, so now that this is on, it's going to use this now. It's going to render 20 frames between this prompt and this one, 10 between this one and this one, and 10 between this one and this one. So when that's checked, it's going to follow our keyframes there. We have a total of 40 keyframes. So that was my mistake. So the last one I had it unchecked, what it actually did was it just rendered 4 frames between each one, regardless of what the numbers are. So that's what I meant about it being a little easier. When you have this unchecked, you can just write however many frames you want in between each of the prompts, and it doesn't matter what you have there. It's just going to do however many you have there. So I meant to do this second, but let's go ahead and redo this again now. And it should behave now like I said the last one did. And it should actually give us more frames, so we'll get a little more of a gradual morph there. So I'll go ahead and let this finish again. We'll come check on it when it's done here. Okay, our video is done here. Let's go ahead and render this one again. Okay, and there we go. So you can see what I mean, that first prompt, that apple, doesn't really show up very good because it's just instantly starting to change it into the next one, which is a banana. And actually, we can't really see the banana there very good either. It's kind of just turning really quick into them because we don't have very many keyframes there. So now let me go ahead and uncheck this, and I'm going to show you. We'll do this one a little different this time. I'm going to give this one plenty of time for each one. So I'm going to do 100 here. So like I said, now it's not going to follow these. It's just going to go from one prompt to the next. So it's going to generate a total here of 300 frames. So from the first prompt to the second one, from the apple to the banana, it's going to make 100 frames. From the banana to the coconut, it's going to make 100 frames, and from the coconut to a durian, it's going to make 100 frames. So that's what I mean about the very first prompt you make. It's not going to be very prominent because it's going to use 100 frames, change the apple to the banana. Then it's going to use 100 frames, change the banana to the coconut. So the banana is going to be on there as the apple morphs into the banana and then to the coconut. So the apple is going to be a little less than the following three. So that's all you need to really kind of know when you're making these prompts. So if you, another thing you could do is you could just put your first prompt in there twice, but it will render it exactly the same. So it'll kind of be a still image there for a while. So, um, anyways, let's go ahead. Let's just go ahead and run this, and you can see it. So now, right now, with the 100 frames here and this unchecked, it's going to make a 300 frame video here. So let's go ahead and run this. And again, it's going to show us all four of our prompts first, so we can kind of get a sneak preview of what the images are going to look like. So that's kind of nice. And I've got a RAM now, so we've got a very silver apple. Looks kind of like the apple from Apple iPhones, and a very strange banana and an open coconut. Okay. And it didn't show us our durian for some reason. It'll pop up. It probably just disappeared too quick. So I'll go ahead and let this run. So you can see it's instantly starting with that first image apple, and it's going to start changing that into the banana. So let's go ahead and let this run, and I'll come check on it here when it's done. Okay, our video is wound down now, and just to show you again what we did is this time we unchecked this and we just put interpolate X frames 100. So that makes 100 frames between the first and second prompt, 100 frames between the second and third, and 100 frames between the third and fourth prompt. So these numbers really don't mean anything in this mode. It could just be 1, 2, 3, 4 here. We would still get a 300 frame interpolation video. So let's go ahead and run it and see how it turned out here. And then we'll do something with a little more interesting prompts. I'll go ahead and change the prompts and we'll try something here next. Might even load one of my custom models here for the very last one, but this is a really easy mode to learn. And if you make videos, for whatever purpose, just for fun and creative, I think this is a really good kind of mode to add in the mix here. I'm definitely going to be using it soon here, I think. Okay, and there we go. If you notice now we got a 25-second video, so it's a little longer there. And there's our apple, and then it's going to kind of shift that banana picture. It does some kind of interesting things. If you notice too, it looks exactly like those pictures it showed us in the beginning. So that can save you some guesswork as to what your prompt images will turn out looking like anyway. And then it'll wind up there at the durian. So this is interpolation mode. And like I said, you can make some really interesting videos. It's kind of neat when you use people portraits too. But for the next one, I think I'm going to try doing some seasons here. We'll try a little experiment here. I haven't done this yet. So a lot of times these videos I'm making here for the guides don't come out good because I'm just kind of experimenting sometimes with prompts. I'm just basically showing you how to make the video. So let's just do this for this first one. I'm just going to do something kind of simple here. I'm just doing a castle in a fantasy landscape. And I'm going to change it for summer to fall to winter and to spring. I'll change the colors to season. Okay, and also just to make it more interesting, I'm going to go ahead and crank up our frames here to, let's go ahead and do 200. Why not? I got the A100 turned on, so let's go ahead and do 200 frames now between each one. This will give us an even longer video. So I've just got a castle in a fantasy landscape, summer flowers, then I've got that just repeated, and fall, winter, spring. Well, we'll see how this turns out. I used to do this just with still videos with something, so I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, but we will find out here. Okay, and we'll come check on it when it's done. Okay, everybody, and the video is done here. Let's go ahead and give it a run and see what we got. So again, let me go back up here and show you what we're doing again. We are doing an interpolation video, and I have this unchecked, and I cranked it up to 200 frames. That means between every prompt here in the animation, it's generating 200 frames for the video. So this is going to be about a 600 frame video here. And it should have the castle changing from summer to fall to winter to spring. That was kind of the idea anyway. So it'll take just a little bit longer here since it is so many frames. And this is a real great way too, where you don't have to do a lot of work. You can just, set up 4 prompts, put in put in how many frames you want, and that's all you got to do. You don't got to worry about the movement or anything else really. So if you got some good prompts, you can use it. We'll use the same seed also for all the prompts. So another thing you can do is try to find a seed that looks good in all of your prompts, like all 3 or all 4 of your prompts. And this one I just did, from the cuff. I didn't really put any kind of detailedness into the prompt or anything. I just did a simple castle in a fantasy landscape. And I'll do some fancier ones. I might do one more here at the end here. And there it is. Let's see what we got here. So there's our castle with the summer flowers, which should be probably the shortest part because you see it's already starting to generate the next prompt, which is those fall colors. That tree grew real quick there. And that made a 50-second video there with 600 frames. So that's, pretty long too for an AI video. And now we're going from fall to winter, and then it should go to spring after this. That looks kind of cool. I really like the winter sky there too. The star up there. And let's do it staying kind of consistent because it is using the same seed for all the prompts. I don't think you can change it. I don't think there's any way to. So that's kind of something you just have to kind of deal with. I actually like it like this because we're getting kind of consistent there. And there we go. And let me go ahead and stop this one. I'll do one final one here. Okay, and for the final one here, I've switched up the prompts quite a bit here. So we're going to start off with a Blade Runner city. And I've got, like I said, I've added a little bit more detail here. Then we're going to go to a portrait of a pirate woman, then a steampunk building, and then an outpost on an alien planet. So let's look at the video we just did one more time here. And we can kind of see that it's kind of staying pretty true to the prompts that we had because they were all pretty similar. I just had a castle in a fantasy landscape. Then I just changed the modifiers at the end to go from summer to fall to winter to spring again. So that's kind of a cool kind of theme you can do there. And also I did notice, excuse me, I was getting a little bit of watermark, so I decided to go ahead and turn on the prompt weights for this next one. I still really like that winter sky. This one turned out pretty good for not really spending too much time on it at all. But so for this next one, I'm going to put together, the idea here is to get some things that aren't really related. So I do think it works a little better if you kind of have them similar. It'll kind of morph, just a little bit, kind of like that one does. Like that's actually a pretty decent video for just throwing it together there. So I did, a lot of times people ask me why I do certain things. A lot of times I'm just doing stuff in the video just because I'm just focusing on teaching or whatever the video is about. So like for this one, I just shut the weights off because I just wanted to show you how to make an interpolation video. So a lot of times that stuff that I'm doing really isn't that important, but I am going to turn them back on here just to kind of get rid of watermarks and also just to make that statement. If you see me doing something in here, a lot of times it just might not have anything to do with what the video is about, so that's why I'm doing stuff just to keep it simpler. I just kind of like to show people exactly how I do things, and I do that by starting with a brand new notebook. And so for this, I'm using the 2.1 model, so we do not want normalized prompt weights on the 2.1 model. And I think I've already done the guide on weights, but for the 2.1 model, you don't want the prompt weights. For the 1.5 and earlier model, you do. So anyways, we've got that all ready to go here. And let me go back up here. I'm just going to, I think, cut it down just a little bit. Now, let's leave it on 200 frames. And I'll just give one final reminder here of what I'm doing. So I could, if I click this interpolate keyframes, if I had this checked, then it would only make a 40 frame video. It would follow our keyframes exactly. So if you want more control over it, like maybe you want a Blade Runner city for the first 200 frames, then you just want this for 100 frames, and then maybe you just want that very last one for 30 frames. So you can have a lot more control over it if you do check that and just do them yourself. But if you just uncheck it, then it's just going to make 200 frames between each prompt starting from the first one. So it's not going to make 800 frames, it's going to make 600, because from the first prompt to the second one, it's going to do 200 frames. Then from second to the third, 200 frames. Then from the third to the fourth, 200 frames. So that's how that works. And actually, I'm going to turn this down just a little bit. We'll turn it down to 150. And you can get really crazy and turn it way up. But you see, it doesn't change a whole lot. There's no movement. It's completely ignoring the movement. It's pretty much ignoring everything in animation. Once we have that interpolation turned on, you notice it's not listening to the max keyframes. It's just going by what we have down here in this interpolation section. So that makes it a nice, easy way to just render a quick video, just fire and forget. So there's our prompts, and I'll go ahead and run this. And also, when you're starting, you can kind of watch it, and it'll show you each image that it's going to make. So we'll go ahead and watch that this time. And we'll see what we're going to get in this prompt. There's our kind of sci-fi city, the Blade Runner city. Then it's a portrait of a pirate woman who may or may not have a cannonball in her hand there. And then we've got a steampunk Victorian city in fog. I was hoping for a little thicker fog, but that'll work. And then it's not showing us the very last one. I guess we don't get to see the last one, so that will be a surprise. Okay, so we will come check on this when it's done. Okay, and here is the previous one we did. We're going to do this last one here. I was thinking about doing some more getting into models, but I think I'm just going to wait, and I'll show off some of my custom models here when I get into models, which is going to be coming up right next. That's going to be one of my next guides, is custom models. And this one is our very last interpolation one here. I think I cut the frames down to 150. Is that what I did? Yes, 150. So we got these prompts here. I upgraded the prompts a bit. My main goal is just to have different prompts instead of the same one. So we've got, we'll start off with a city, then a pirate woman, then a steampunk building, then a outpost on an alien, the planet animal park or something. Yeah, so let's go see what this crazy video looks like. And like I said, I never really used interpolation a lot, but I'm really starting to like it. I've done some other ones with portraits mainly, and I'll probably do some of those when I use my custom models. I think I'm going to put in the interpolation video for my weekly video this week for my Patreon page. Okay, and here we go. It's kind of interesting the way that it decides what to do in between the city and the woman there. We kind of had a suburban building, and I did the same thing too here when it goes back. I was kind of looking at it while I was generating. Yeah, we get kind of back to that when we go back to the steampunk Victorian city. It kind of makes a house there in between. That's kind of interesting what it decides to do on the in-between steps. And again, back to the house. So houses are the building blocks for everything, I guess. And here we go to the alien planet. Yeah, I like it. I like it. It's very interesting mode. I'm gonna do some more stuff with this. And this is the 2.1 model. I usually use the 1.5, but I do like this one too. It just depends on what I'm doing. For YouTube, I always use the 2.1. That way, I'm a lot less likely to get the not safe for work stuff that comes up sometimes on the 1.5, especially with fantasy art. There's so many fantasy artists that do that kind of stuff. But anyways, thank you very much for watching. Like I said, I'm gonna be back very soon here. I'm gonna be putting out a ton of videos this month, and I am gonna start my live streaming here soon. I just need to get my webcam hooked back up again. I got to find it, and then I'm going to start doing some live streaming and maybe help you guys, with some question and answers. And I'm also going to start doing some Auto 11 stuff. But right now, this week, I will be doing some models. There will be a model I'm going to release this week. I think I'm going to do a female vampire one. My last model, I think, was a werewolf. So I'm going to kind of close out the monster theme here on YouTube. And then I always release custom models to my Patreon members. And I also might do one for Deforum. I've been working on one that I'm going to run by him. But anyways, thank you all for watching. I will be back very soon. You all have a great rest of your day.